we can do concerning this great country. The Bible says that if the foundation be destroyed, what can the righteous do? So the righteous are trying to get together to see what they can do. And a lot of Nigeria, there are many, many deep things that have gone wrong. The gentleman who spoke with us last week, I met with him earlier on in the week, Mr. Dele Ogun, and he did recommend to me this book, The Harold Smith Story, which talks about the end of the British Empire in Africa. It's written by a man who worked with the British government at that time, and so on and so forth. I think it's a good read, it's a must read, and also his book on the fatherless that talks about the issues in Nigeria and where we are because of the foundation that our colonial masters laid, and still their influence even over our governments and our leadership even till today. Nearer home, conversations that I've heard tell me that the amount of I don't know what to call it, the amount of rot, the amount of corruption, the amount of destruction of institutions by people who are in leadership really, really bring a lot to question and make it very burdensome as to what we can do in Nigeria. But I'm sure there's something we can do with prayer, with thoughts, with thinking, with strategy, with hope for the future. It is possible to recover this nation. A lot of nations have gone through their own issues one way or the other, even the so-called developed and developing nations today. We're in some kind of crisis at one time or the other, and somehow a few people got together and rescued the country. I think the same will be for our nation, Nigeria. Our guest speaker today, I'm very, very happy to have him on board and to meet him perhaps for the first time, even though it's virtual, but I'm sure we'll get to meet physically as soon as possible. He's a gentleman who we can regard as a statesman, a development economist, international civil servant, and a public intellectual. Over 30 years experience in banking, finance, and public policy, not just in Nigeria, but across Africa. So he's very well able to comment on our situation in Nigeria and in Africa. He was formerly at the African Development Bank, former Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, and former Chief de Cabinet of the African, Caribbean, and Pacific Group in Brussels. He's also a graduate of the famous IIAP École Nationale d'Administration, Paris, France, and completed his doctorate at the University of Oxford in 1995, specializing in the economics and politics of international development. He also lectured in Oxford and in London before pursuing a career in banking and international finance. I think he started his career actually in some school in and then went on to the Ahmadu Bello University, where he was a graduate assistant for a few years. He has been consultant to several international organizations, including the UN, the BFID, and the EU. Nationally syndicated columnist for Punch, Vanguard, Tribune, Business Day. Fluent in French, proficient elementarily in Italian, Portuguese, Spanish, and Arabic. This is major. An interest in moral theology, Islamic metaphysics, jurisprudence, the philosophy of law, Egyptology, and the spiritual translations of the Apostolic Church Fathers, poetry, art, and rural conservation. He was lately the presidential candidate for the African Democratic Congress in the 2019 elections and he came a close third. Please welcome with me Dr. Obadiah Mailafia. Dr. Obadiah Mailafia, and he's been in the press recently for some of his comments on the national issues and so on and so forth. Perhaps he'll tell us a little bit more about that as we go into this conversation. Our topic today is this: is Nigeria a failed state? Dr. Mailafia, you are most welcome to the Nigerian Leadership Series of the African Leadership Group. Thank you for agreeing to come on this platform. And I must thank Samuel Dada, based in Europe, who made this connection possible. Samuel, I appreciate you very much. God bless you for your kindness and your support. Doctor, my first question to you is this: is Nigeria a failed state? If you think it is not, tell us why. If you think it is, please elaborate. Thank you very much.
Thank you. First of all, Senior Pastor Itua Imodalu, let me thank you and the African Leadership Group for inviting me into this conversation. I've heard about you, all the good work you're doing, and unfortunately, I've never met you, but thank goodness that today we're meeting for the first time. I look forward to meeting you, and I pray that the good Lord will continue to bless the ministry and the great work that you are doing. So I consider it an honor and a privilege to be here. And thanks again for the very kind comments about my person. I thank you.
Thank you very much.
You know, is Nigeria a failed state? You know, questions are very important. I had a very distinguished professor who used to say that questions are more important than answers. And the most important things in life, as in science, is to ask the right questions. So is Nigeria a failed state? The other problem with this question is that, you know, a young man wants to marry a young girl. By this time he starts debating, do I love her? Now, do I really, really love her? That question itself is an answer, because you can't be unsure about love. Either you love or you don't. I think it's normally very categorical. The French would always say, le cœur a sa raison que la raison ne connaît pas. That the heart always has its reason, which reason doesn't know. So even asking that question, posing that question, is half the answer. If there was nothing wrong, we would not even be asking that question. The fact that we're debating that at all means something is profoundly wrong. That's number one. There are litmus tests of a failed state. One of them is widespread insecurity. When the state can no longer guarantee and secure the lives and properties of its citizens. Secondly, when there is a massive erosion of legitimacy. Legitimacy in terms of both moral as well as political legitimacy. You know, it is as old as Rousseau and John Locke that government, to have legitimacy and authority, must be based on the concept of the governed. And there is a primordial contract, a social contract, in which people submit restrictions on their liberties only and only because there is a state that can protect them and that can secure their liberties. against, the perils of other humans and of nature. So that sort of thing. And thirdly, there are ungoverned spaces in which there is no authority. And thirdly, the public institutions have collapsed. Infrastructures have eroded to a rather primitive level. A host of other things, prolonged economic crisis, inability of the government to provide basic services and to provide other public goods, health, education, utility services like water, electricity, and so on. And of course, general prolonged economic and political instability, and also that the people are divided. The French will call it un état divisé. That is, the state, the people are very, very divided. And there's a deep sense that they don't feel that they belong together. There was a famous jurist, German jurist by the name of Carl Schmitt, in which he wrote a famous book called The Meaning of the Political, that a community of persons feel a sense of common bond and spiritual bond only because they feel that they are one people with a common destiny. But when between them, there's a feeling that they are not friends, that they're enemies. Enemies cannot exist in a country. We can disagree on political issues, we can have issues here and there, but we're not enemies. But when we begin to feel that we're enemies, then in fact, the state is no longer in that space between the people, those interlocutors. And I'm afraid if you look at all these indices, the sense of despair, the collapse of public institutions, the erosion of moral as well as political legitimacy, the prolonged economic breakdown, massive unemployment, nearly 100 million Nigerians are under the international definition of destitution, of extreme poverty. We are now the world capital of poverty. We are now the world capital of kidnapping. There's a despair. Most Nigerian youths are scheming how to go to Canada or Europe or the United States. When you put all these indices together with various demands for self-determination, Oduduwa, Biafra, Middle Belt, even Arewa have also said, look, they want an Arewa Republic. So when you look at all these things together, I'm afraid it leads to only one conclusion. But is Nigeria a failed state? A failed state is not an end state, really, as such, except in extreme cases like Afghanistan, South Sudan, Syria, Yemen. So Nigeria may not be absolutely a failed state, but some people would say we are becoming a failing state, a rapidly failing state. In fact, others would say we're a successful failed state. But there are varieties of failed states. A successful failed state was developed as a theory developed by a professor, a political scientist at Oxford by the name of Oliveira, of Portuguese origin. He went and did major research in Angola. He said concluded that Angola had failed in most, criteria of an effective state. But its oil industry was so well managed by international standards that it is just one of those pockets of sectors that are successful, despite the general failed nature of the country and its political institutions. So you could say that Nigeria is a successful failed state in that sense. That you go to Lagos, there are industries that work, there are banks that are doing well, the oil sector, Chevron, ExxonMobil, Shell, there are pockets of success in a sea, in an ocean of failure and virtual collapse. So Nigeria is heading desperately towards a failed state status. It is also a successful failed state in the sense that most of it has collapsed already, but a few pockets of effectiveness, institutional effectiveness, are still holding on. But those pockets are very few and very suspended. So I hope my reply is not too long-winded, but these are very, very complicated issues.
Thank you very much. And I like your definitions of rapidly failing states and successful failed states. I think we call it an oxymoron in literature. We want to play a few clips very quickly, and we'd like our people to watch, and I'd like to seek your comments on those clips. We're looking at the state of things in Nigeria, especially insecurity. Please, Olu, from the back end, please play those clips very quickly. The attack on the NDA was all over the news this last week, and it's a bit frightening to see that the citadel of defense architecture and study suddenly is attacked. Okay, next one. Where is it? Then the comments by His Royal Highness Lamido Sanusi talking this week about ending subsidies and the need to change the economic trajectory of our nation. Okay, next one, please. And then we want to play a video now of a comment by a gentleman. I'm sure a few people probably picked this up on their phones or saw it on the media. Are we able to pick it up, Olu? All right.
Is that there are a group of people in this country that feels that it's not about sentiment. Is that there are a group of people in this country that feels that this country should be Islamized. This is a fact. Except you want me to start mentioning names of people in this government that we have interrogated. I was a member of an interrogation team, and I've interrogated a very high-ranking member of this government in 2007, 2008 on the issue of Boko Haram. I interrogated him. He's in this government right now. And what was the issue? Boko Haram. And this senior officer was actually let go because he was found culpable. But right now he's in the government. You see, we must say the truth, because if you don't, this country is going down the precipice. We have been set back more than 60 years right now. We've gone back to the time before 1966 now. And whoever is coming back to repair this country has a lot of work to do. This country has never been polarized, so we cannot run away from it. We have never been this much polarized. I'm a federal person. My mind is federal. My brain is federal. My loyalty is federal. I do things for the federal government. So I cannot come here and try to be sentimental. No, I'm a federal person.
So will your life be at risk now that they're hearing you?
I don't care. I don't care. And my colleagues, they know me. Those people that listen to me, they know me. I don't care. The issue is that this country is bigger than individual. That is the issue. This country is bigger than individuals. Buhari will come and go. Eliminating me or killing me will not solve the problem and will not add value. But he will come and go. And somebody must come and repair the damage to the psyche of this society, the damage to the polarization, to the nepotism that I've never seen in my life. I work with all these presidents. This is the worst situation I've found myself. And believe me, internet does not forget. I was part of the people that helped to bring Buhari to government because I believe in him.
We heard the man, that's Commodore Kunle Olaumi, retired. I don't know. No, that's Commodore Kunle Olaumi, retired. I think he spoke on the press. I'm not muted. Last week or so. Doctor, do you have any comments? He was looking specifically at security, NDA gets attacked. We have Sanusi talking about issues of the economy. What are your thoughts? And it says Nigeria is polarized and he's never seen it that bad before. I don't know if you have any comments on that. And if indeed he's correct, what do we need to do to begin to put Humpty Dumpty together again?
Well, I don't know whether we can put Humpty Dumpty together again. I would hope so. But it will also depend whether Humpty Dumpty himself wants to be put back together again. I salute his courage. I really salute his courage. He's a patriot. Clearly, anybody who has worked in the second profession of intelligence, they are not rabble-rousers. They are not given to flippancy. They are not people, once you are in intelligence, the one thing you do is you have surrendered any idea of fame. You will be seen and you will not be heard. For him to come out and speak, it means he has seen something that most Nigerians haven't seen. You know, Senior Pastor, it was around about this time last year that I gave an interview to a small FM radio that I thought was innocuous and, obscure little FM radio somewhere in Badagry. It was early in the morning, around 7:30. I was having my coffee while having a chat with them. And before I knew, the whole thing spread around the whole world. And, it was like all hell had broken loose. And even as I speak to you, I still don't consider myself a free person. I'm not staying in my house. I'm not staying with my family. I'm staying somewhere far from home because my life has been in danger, in serious danger, in fact. So for simply speaking out in the same way, and coming from a professional and as an insider, I think Commodore Kunle Olaumi has kind of vindicated what some of us had been crying about for a long time, that there's a lot of shenanigans in high places. There's a kind of collusive attitude. with regard to insecurity in our country, and that a lot of people know more than they're prepared to acknowledge, and that we are being taken for a big ride. We're sacrificing young people. Huge fortunes has been spent. Recently, we are told that over the years, the defense budget has been more than $1 trillion. Far, far in excess of education, which in my view should be number one, And so there is a kind of game theoretic interest among those who have invested so much, quote unquote, in the insecurity business. They don't want it to end. It's a source of wealth, it's a source of power, and it's a source of imposing fear and control over other people. The devil works through the instrumentality of fear. And the greatest enemy of the devil is anybody who shows that he's not afraid of him. I've told them, I'm not afraid of you, because you can only kill the physical flesh. You can't kill the spirit. So I'm not scared of you at all. It's just that for the sake of my family, I must find somewhere to stay so that I can live and look after them. I have a very, very sick child. He's been very, very sick. A very bright young man. And for him and his siblings and his mother, I must keep myself alive. So I salute the courage of Commodore Kunle Olaomi. I think he's a patriot. I think he has spoken truth to power. And instead of going about their reflex action, they should do some soul searching and examine what he's saying in order to find practical solutions that work for everyone. And this thing is coming at the wake of the attack on the NDA that you mentioned. It is a tragedy. It is terrible. But then, senior pastor, for several years, we were told that area, and Kaduna is my home state, by the way, that area between Rigasa, that's the new railway station, right through that path through NDA, that some of these crazy characters used to stay there. So apparently people knew them, that they were there. Not a few months ago, they nearly killed the Honorable Minister of Transport. The Honorable Amechi, he went to Kaduna, I think, for some event, and he fled for his dear life. He was nearly killed by these so-called bandits. And, believe in me, senior pastor, anytime I hear the name bandit, whoever pronounces it, I associate him with the killers as well. Because bandits don't attack military installations. Bandits don't bring down jet fighters. It is terrorists who do. And by calling them bandits, we are literally and consciously identifying and justifying their wicked and diabolical actions. They are not bandits. They are terrorists. They are evil terrorists who deserve no sympathy, who deserve no human rights, who must be brought to book. They have killed, they have maimed, they have raped, they have committed atrocities on a staggering scale. The UN, a few weeks ago, came out through UNICEF to announce that about 345,000 children have been killed in the Northeast over the last 12 years. Now, it didn't stop there. 2 days ago, Governor Zulum announced that more than 450,000 Northeast people have gone missing. Nobody knows where they are. Their parents don't know where they are. Their families don't know where they are. So if people have been missing for several years, 3 years is the legal, thing. You can consider them dead from a legal point of view. So we are talking about, if in the Northeast alone, we are talking about 800,000 or 900,000. What do you think would be the figure for the Northwest, the Central, the Middle Belt, where these killings have been going on for almost 20 years? The truth is, the figure is probably more than 1 million of those who have died. And over 3.
Please unmute yourself, Doctor.
Oh, sorry. So, we're talking about a terrible catastrophe. Probably 1 million people have died already in this wicked and evil human orchestrated, humanitarian disaster that we're facing. And more than 3 million refugees, plus many more. The damage, as the Commodore explained, is not only in physical and infrastructures, but also the psyche of Nigerians and a whole generation that have been traumatized by these wicked atrocities. If Nigeria were a different country, if Nigeria were Ghana or South Africa, the world would have, risen up in arms already. But because it is Nigeria, and because I suspect some world powers actually have a vested interest in Nigeria collapsing, they are quiet. There's a massive silence on what is happening. But it is a serious humanitarian tragedy.
I'm going to ask you 2 questions, sir. And it's part of what you have said that has led me to ask these questions. Number 1, who are the people in your own idea that are behind these killings? Who are the people and what do they stand to gain? Second question, why does government seem almost unable to do something about it? And third question, these world powers that we always seem to tend to want to run to all the time, asking for aid, asking for help, asking for this, asking for even structure and strategy to get us out of where we are. Are they really interested in this? And you said this silence tells you that world powers want Nigeria to fail. So in fact, they want Africa to fail. That's my own theory. And they never designed Nigeria to succeed in the first place. They created a Nigeria that they knew eventually we will find ourselves here. Even there's some theory that is saying that some of the coups that were instigated definitely had their hand and their backing in it. And a few other comments like that. What are you thinking, sir?
Well, actually, maybe I should start with the last question, Senior Pastor, about these world powers. I don't know whether the last interview that Masadin Kanu, Alhaji Sule, what is his other name? Masadin Kanu, who was permanent secretary, permanent representative to the UN, and minister in Gowon's government. He said that he and Shagari, during the Civil War, were sent abroad as goodwill ambassadors. Shagari was sent to the Nordic countries. And Shagari became president later, as you know. One of the senior politicians in one of the Scandinavian countries sat Shagari down and said, look, we know why you've come here. You need our help to solve your Civil War problem. I tell you, not only are we going to help you, if we have a way of adding to your headache, we are going to do it. We know you Nigerians. You're very smart people. You're very hardworking people. In fact, we know the natural resources on your earth. We know them even more than you. You don't even know some of them. You don't know half what we know about your natural resources. We don't want competition. We don't want any Japan in Africa. We don't want you to develop so that you can now use those natural resources to develop your own country, and then we shall lose our markets. You are our traditional markets. You are the place where we all dump our goods. So if you become an advanced industrial technological state, which we are sure you will be if left on your own, if left with just 20 years of peace, nobody knows how great Nigeria will be. That's what the man said. So in fact, after the Civil War, we are going to always find problems to add to your headache. We will never allow you to develop peacefully because we know the day Nigeria rises, we've lost Africa forever. Shagari thanked this man, thanked him for his honesty and his sincerity. So look at it, sir. After Civil War, they will bring something like Mitatine. After Mitatine, they will bring things like religious crisis. After religious crisis, there will be something like Ebola. After the AIDS, then Ebola, COVID. After Boko Haram, 10 years of Boko Haram, then they say bandits. After bandits, they say there's now ISWAP. I studied in France. I have nothing against France. They gave me a fantastic scholarship. And I was educated at one of their Ivy League institutions. I thank France. I've heard that France is one of the people sponsoring ISWAP. Because France regards Nigeria as its enemy in West Africa. Even never minding that actually, you know, Macron, the young Macron in the 90s, he was an intern in the Nigerian embassy, French embassy in, he went to the same institution like I did, the Economist. He came for his internship in Nigeria. And during weekends, he used to fly to Fela's shrine in Kalakuta Republic in Lagos. So he knows Nigeria in and out. But it is so sad for us to hear that France is one of the sponsors of ISWAP, a very deadly organization, very evil, very violent. If you go to WikiLeaks, I don't need to mention names because some of those names can put us in danger. Go to WikiLeaks. Some of the foreign intelligence agencies that are linked with Boko Haram, they will surprise you. Now, I have been a student of European diplomacy, right from classical times. We're talking about Greece, the Greek Athenians in the age of Thucydides and Herodotus, the clash between Athens and Sparta during the Peloponnesian Wars, down to Italy of the Renaissance of Lorenzo de' Medici, Niccolo Machiavelli, and all those people, right to the ends of the terrible wars, 30 years of civil war that ended in the peace treaty of Westphalia, right to the balance of power diplomacy, up to our 20th century, the San Francisco treaties, the emergence of the UN, the Cold War, the age of unipolar American hegemony, which is the age we do to live in. The world has been governed by greed, by the naked thirst for power, the lust for power, the arrogance of power, hubris. This is what has governed the world. It's not sentiment, it's not brotherhood, it's not fraternity of nations. It is naked struggle for power and for natural resources and for influence. This is what has governed the world. And none of these world powers are ever comfortable seeing an upstart nation, particularly from Africa, that would arise and challenge their supremacy. For over 500 years, they've seen Africa as nothing but a source of raw materials and a dumping ground for their resources and a source of slave labor till today. A German told me, and I was warning him, look, you guys come and help us because if Nigeria implodes, you can't control the sea of immigrants. He said, don't scare me. We need those young, intelligent Nigerians. Well, our labor shortages are very serious and we're not having enough children again. So our population is going down. We need very bright. So if Nigeria collapses, it's to our advantage. That's what he told me, very frankly. Nigeria's population in 30 years' time will be over 400 million. Our population doubles every 30 years. It's a fact of demographic statistics. In 1960, at the time of our independence, our population was about 57 million, 56, 57 million. Add 30 years to that, that is 1990, our population was 100 million. Add 30 years to that, which is 2020, from 1990, 2020 is another 30 years. Our population is over 200 million. So in another 30 years, it will double to over 400 million. Ahead of the United States, ahead of most of all the European countries. We shall be number 3 after India and China. With all our natural resources, with all the can-do spirit of our people, the creativity of our youth, the can-do spirit of the Nigerian people, nobody knows how great this country could be if only it was in the right hands. World powers are very scared of that, very, very scared. So they want Nigeria to kaput by all means. That's why they're silent. There's no other way to explain this ignoble silence, this unnatural silence. Now, why can't government do anything? You ask why is it that government is unable? I would say they're both unable and unwilling. They're both unable and unwilling. So, we can pick our choice, either or in fact both. They are both unwilling and unable. That is because they've been deceived into believing that this thing is about Islam, it's about jihad. That's why the intelligentsia, the Northern Arewa intelligentsia, they're very quiet. They are saying, well, these methods are a bit too drastic, too violent, but at least they're fighting for Islam. So let's keep quiet. He's our man. Well, bad or good, he's our man. So we can't speak bad against our man. And they've all been deceived into believing that genocide fulfills the purpose of God on earth for Nigeria. But it's a damnable lie from the pits of hell. Who are these people? Well, I can tell you maybe only 20% of them are Nigerians. 80% of them are not Nigerians. Those of us who speak the Hausa language, I've said this several times. When somebody opens their mouth, we know precisely where they come from. I understand Hausan Kanu, Hausan Sakpato, Hausan Sakasena, Hausan Daura, Hausan Zazo. It's very different from the very raw Hausa that you hear from Niger, from Chad, from Mali. Those of us who understand the language know exactly that these people are not Nigerians. That is why they kill with such venom. They are pitiless. They can use a sword, and they've done it on pregnant women. They cut them out and bring out the babies and slaughter them. For the past 3 weeks, they've been committing genocide in Jos, around Miyango, Rokuba. They killed 300 people at one night. So when the youth were on edge, they saw a strange bus coming, and in front of the bus, there was an ambulance. So they stopped them. They said that they're Yorubas, and they just came from an Islamic conference in Bauchi, and they are going back to Ondo. Then the youth asked them, this is not the main route to Ondo. Why are you following a bush path if truly you are going to Ondo? They searched the ambulance, and lo and behold, they found the most frightening arsenal of weapons, of military-grade weapons that you can think of. Then, of course, there was a kerfuffle, and of course, it led to death. My name is Mailafia, and Obadiah Mailafia means a man of peace. And Obadiah means servant of the Most High. Bless my mom for giving me that. Bless her soul, she's late now. She gave me that Old Testament name, means servant of the Most High. I would never condone killing murders. The cheap propaganda that some people have used out of that incident is dangerous and equally evil. They've forgotten the hundreds they've killed in that area. And when the youths have decided to defend themselves, then all hell has broken loose. So please, when you hear such stories, dig deeper and find out the truth of what is actually at stake. And it turns out none of these people were Yoruba. None of them were going to undo anything. They were full Fulani names. And they were coming there to kill, to maim, to rape, and to destroy. That is what they came for. That was the main purpose of their mission. And the youths just stopped them on their tracks. This is what happened. But till today, even as of yesterday, they are piling dead bodies and dumping them in the government house in Jos because the killings have increased. All the Fulanis have mobilized from the surrounding states, and they're coming on a massive onslaught against the defenseless people of Plateau State. So this is where we are. Most of these people are not Nigerians. Of course, they are collaborating with Nigerians, and they are committing genocide. And, you know, if we don't rise up to defend our land, you know, they will take over. No doubt about it. Because they believe that Christians are always in the business of turning the other cheek. So they are using that to go on a rampage. And if you study the history of that kind of expansionism, that is the way it has worked. They must be stopped. In the name of God and in the name of humanity, this evil must be stopped.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Let me ask you one more question before I throw the platform open. Many people want to ask you questions. I see Itemi Tari lifting up her hands. We will get to you, Itemi, very shortly. What do we do in Nigeria? How do we solve our problem? What are the action points to take to transform this country?
You know, one of my favorite theologians is Dietrich Bonhoeffer, a German theologian who stood up to Adolf Hitler and paid for it with his life. He was hanged in April 1945. He was just a young man. He was just about 36 or so. He was not yet married. He was engaged to be married, but he was already a world-famous theologian. Came from a top aristocratic German family. And he said, if I saw a madman on a truck driving on the road full of school children trying to cross, it shall be my duty to stop that madman. The people driving the ship of Nigeria have become mad people. It must be our duty to stop the truck that they are heading to destroy so many of our people. How do we do it? I'm a man of peace. I don't believe in violence. I belong to the Martin Luther King School of Thought. If all the Christians in Nigeria decided that for 1 week we will stay at home and fast, if we decided that this evil government must change its ways, that there must be a restructuring of this country, or would all of us, every single Christian, in the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth, we shall down our tools, we shall stay at home until there is an agreement for a constitutional conference that will restructure this country. This is an illegal constitution. It was done by stealth. It is based on a fraud. It starts with we the people. When you and I, sir, were never consulted. We don't know who wrote it. Some say it's Professor Yadudu, whoever that guy is. All kinds of people call themselves professors these days. But I've been written by the devil for all he can. But definitely you and I were not consulted. So it is not our constitution. We must have a new constitution and a new re-engineering of the federation in such a way that all this egregious and jurisprudential mischief will no longer exist. And we can have a true constitution that is based on the true will of the people of Nigeria, all of them together. So that's the first step. Of course, we should pray. pray and fast for our country. The Bible enjoins us to pray for our leaders. I do that. Let's all continue to do that. But thirdly, every community has a right to self-defense. No, this business of turning the other cheek must end today. There is nothing in the Bible that says you should lie down. There's some idiots should come by stealth of night and kill your wife and rape your daughter and humiliate you and take everything of yours and kidnap your nephews and cousins, humiliate them, enslave them, use them into forced marriages. There's nowhere in the Bible that says we should lie down and accept such a fate. Our Constitution and our laws are very clear. They enshrine the right to self-defense as a fundamental right. It is a precept of the law of nations. International law prescribes that every community that faces an existential threat to its very survival has not only a duty, but has an obligation to take such steps as are necessary to defend themselves. It is also guaranteed by natural law and natural justice and by equity. So let's not miss what's about it. We must use everything available to defend our families, defend our churches, defend our communities. Nobody has a right to come and humiliate you and violate your family, violate your rights, and you are there watching because you say you are a Christian. I don't know what kind of Christian that is. This is the time to stand up and face these people and defeat them. This is really what I think we must do.
Thank you very much, sir. There are quite a lot of questions on the platform, so I'm going to appeal to everyone. Please keep your question or your comment very short. We'll take them in groups of 4. So Dr. Obadiah, please, if you have a piece of paper, just note the questions so that you can answer them all together very quickly, so we can take as many questions as possible. I want us to end this program by 6:30 on the latest, because I'm told that you have something to do at 7, and I want to respect your time so that you don't miss that appointment. So we're going to take the first set of 4 questions. I have Eitemi Taire, Anthony Ugebo, Sonny Enebi, and Ifenyiwa Wakwesi, I think it is, Doctor. Yeah, okay. So 30 seconds, please. Make your comments very quickly. Doctor will note them, and then he will answer all the 4, and then we go to the next set. Thank you. Eitemi, please, complete yourself.
Thank you, Pastor. Thank you, Dr. Obadiah Mailafia. You don't know how much you inspire me and people like me, and give us a lot of hope that maybe something can change for this nation. The question that I want to ask you is truly, what next? What do you think is next for us as a nation? I would love you to break it down the way you see this whole situation playing out in the short, medium, and long term. I would love you to take it from the perspective of the internal perspective of, this sponsorship of Islamization and Boko Haram, etc. But also take it back to one of the comments you made earlier about the world, basically the international community not wanting us to succeed. Because like it or lump it, well, we live in an interconnected world. So what do we do? How do we maintain our corporate existence within that context, those contexts that you that you basically shared with us earlier?
Okay, thank you, Eitemi. Anthony, please, your question very quickly.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Dr. Mailafia, I've admired you for so long, and God bless you.
Thank you, sir.
I would encourage everyone to watch Sunrise Daily of yesterday. Mr. Kunle Olawumi, who was a former Navy Commodore, who yesterday very passionately about his 35 years of experience in the Nigerian Navy and services and what's going on. The question I have is between now and when President Muhammad Buhari leaves office, because I strongly believe, based on the evidence, that he is responsible for this madness. Between now and when he leaves office, what is the best way that you think we can put pressure on him such that there's no mistake that we are sick and tired of this and we can't wait for him to leave office? What is the best way that you think we can put pressure on him between now and when he leaves office? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anthony. Sonny, please unmute yourself. Let's hear your question.
Thank you very much, Pastor. And Dr. Obadiah, thanks for the very great insights that you have given so far. I want to ask a question in relation to what is happening in Afghanistan. And some, they have posited in some quarters that if Nigeria were to divide, the South goes, the South meaning Southwest, Southeast, that the jihadists will easily overrun the North and take over the North as it is. That what is holding the North in place against them is because we are still together. Do you agree with that position? And if so, would you advocate that kind of strong restructuring the South should go? And if the South goes, then it's very easy for these jihadists to take over the North. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sonny.
Thank you.
Please unmute yourself. Unmute yourself.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Pastor Itwa, for giving me this opportunity. And I thank the speaker very much for his impactful conversation. My take is that every time we are dealing with the Nigerian situation from the signs and symptoms, I've always said that we need to look at the root cause of our challenges in this society. The speaker spoke about prayers and going to church and all that. I think that we have prayed enough, that in fact, God has answered all our prayers. It's left for us to develop a growth mindset and take responsibility for our lives so that we can be a responsible fellowship. A few people have taken our power. Only few people in this society have taken our power and are deciding for us. Many of us are laid back. We just come to webinars and workshops and we talk and talk and talk, and we go back home and we're not proactive about helping younger people to reprogram their mindset, know that they have innate resources and use it to be patriotic and talk when they should talk. I think, Pastor Itua, we need to change our conversation. Our conversation should go to what can Nigerian fellowship do to seize back their power so we can change and create a leadership that can change our narrative. The current leadership is not working. That's not what we need. We need younger, dynamic, creative, talented people that are self-actualized and have also reached a stage of self-transcendence. They're no longer worried about what they can get for their pockets. They're worried about what they can do to impact society. That is what our conversation should be. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, Ifeanyi. And this is exactly what we're trying to achieve on this platform. Specific things that everyone can do to take back our society. You will not believe how deep the challenge is and how very, very taken over or corrupted our institutions are. So it's going to take a lot of work. But Dr. Obadiah, over to you, please. You have 4 questions to speak to.
Sure. Yes, thank you. I recorded all of them. Thank you so very much, Senior Pastor. The first question came from Eyitemi Taire. If I got your name correct, if I mispronounced it, forgive me. You asked what is next in relation to what we need to do to the sponsorship of Islamization program. To be honest with you, I'm not worried about any Islamization program. You know, it was His Lordship, John Cardinal Onyekan, who said, look, nobody is stopping Christians from Christianization of Nigeria. We shouldn't stop, and we cannot stop anybody from Islamization. It's part of the da'ah, it's what they call them, the da'ah of Islam, to proselytize. Our issue is with genocide, ethnic cleansing, violent killings and destruction of churches, discrimination against Christians, and persecution of the church. This is what we're against, not necessarily about Islamization. They can Islamize anybody for all I care. That is not the issue. So, but what is next? The point I'm making is that, look, the day that Christians, all the Christians of this country, and there are a minimum of 100 million Christians. That is even a test, because some people are boasting that they are now the majority because they have brought in millions of illegal immigrants, illegal aliens. They've issued them with documents, right of stay, and they are now working with a swagger that they are now the democratic majority. Somebody reminded me not long ago that they are the democratic majority now, and in a democracy, it is a game of numbers, so they are there to call the shots because they are now the permanent majority. I say, well, until we have a proper census, we wouldn't know who are the majority. And if you are including these aliens that you've brought, then it is a fraudulent majority, and it cannot be regarded as legitimate. What will happen if all Christians in this country stayed at home for a week in protest against atrocities, against the persecution of the church, against social injustice, against nepotism, against all these kidnappings and rapes and violent atrocities? What if we stayed at home for a whole week, fasting and praying, and say we are not moving an inch until this government listens to us? I will bring the whole country to a standstill. That will even be a test as to know who is the true majority. Why can't we do that? What are we waiting for? While that fasting takes place, nobody should touch anything beef. It is because of this cow that they're killing so many people. So for heaven's sakes, for a week, let's not eat their meat. Let's not eat the cow. Let's stay at home in protest, and let's submit our constitutional grievances to the powers that be. That no, we will not cooperate with you until you address and meet our demands. That this constitution is illegal. It is loaded with, jurisprudential innovations that have changed the constitutional compact that existed since 1914 amalgamation, which coupled up Nigeria together as a secular open state, not an Islamic state. We do not, and we will never belong to an Islamic state. You are hell-bent on enforcing an Islamic state. You are hell-bent on using illegal aliens to take over our ancestral homelands, contrary to our constitution, contrary to the social contract that we have entered with. So we are downing our tools for 1 week. Let's do that and see whether Nigeria will survive it or not. Let's do that for a whole week. Let's bring this country to its knees until our demands are met. We don't need to throw even a stone. Just stay at home and fast and pray and say you are not going to work. Close the markets, close everywhere, close the schools. Keep our children at home. and see what will happen. And it is doable. Unfortunately, Khan doesn't have the stamina to do such a thing. Please, could somebody mute themselves, because we are talking, two of us now. Please, somebody is talking, mute yourself, please.
Allow me to use those things.
Excuse me, somebody is talking.
Doctor, please unmute yourself. We muted everybody. Please unmute yourself.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Then Anthony Ubebo, what do we do between now and when PMB leaves power? No, I think it is the same thing. At various levels, let us continue the agitation. Civil disobedience has moral force, and it is our right. If all of us as genuine Christians, and if you're a genuine Christian, you can never hate a Muslim. I have no business hating anybody. But if our church and the future of Christianity is being undermined in this country, and you know it from your heart of hearts, and you are quiet, then we as a church have a very big problem. We must stand up and be counted. If you are ashamed of Christ today, he will be ashamed of you in the last day. I spoke out, I stood up because of my Christian conscience. My conscience would not allow me to sleep because of the great evils I've seen. So let's continue the agitation. Let's continue civil action. Let's join hands and down tools as Christians for a week and submit our constitutional demands to the presidency and to the National Assembly. We as Christians will no longer feel part of this country. These are the reasons. We therefore demand A, B, C, D to be done. And we'll continue to escalate the civil disobedience until our demands are met. This is possible. This is doable. We don't have to be violent. We don't have to lift a stone. It has been said that nobody can make you a slave without your tacit complicity in some form. So far, unfortunately, the church has been in tacit complicity. And let me reveal something to you today. These people who are launching atrocities on us, they've understood the church very well. Especially people who are not called, who call themselves prayer contractors, so-called prophets, all these kind of things. Some of them are even into things that you'll be ashamed to call a Christian with regard to them. A sister had a prophecy recently. She had a vision in which the Lord took her to heaven. Wow, heaven was fantastic. Then the Lord took her to her local church. She entered quickly and said, Lord, come in now. This is my church. No. The Lord started crying. Jesus started crying. My church, my church, my church. It stinks so high. The smell is too much. I cannot enter my house. I cannot enter my church. The smell is too much. The smell of the church is too much. The Islamists understand that. And they are very contemptible of us. So judgment must begin in the household of faith. Thirdly, we have Sonny Enebi. Afghanistan, if the South moves out, then the Taliban can move in quickly and so on. Well, I don't know. It's very hypothetical. I don't know what answer to give you. But I don't know, you know, the terrorists are already in control of the North. How many times do you want them to be in control of it? It's just, they're just waiting to declare an Islamic State in the North. They had half of Borno at some stage. So, and even areas where they're not in control, they're already spiritually in control because many of the youths would subscribe to them any day. You know, it's just that they've used extremist methods. That is why people are scared. But if they turn the attack a bit, they will be in total control of the North. And in any case, you say if the South pull out, well, I am not one of those who still believe that we should break up unilaterally. I think it would be messy. Let us fight for a constitutional restructuring of the country, for a re-engineering of our federation. If we cannot get that, then let there be a referendum in which everybody will decide whether to go or to remain in the Nigerian Federation. I'm not one of the leaders of the Middle Belt, but by moral right, I'm seen as a leader of the Middle Belt. And I can tell you, the Middle Belt will never stay with the North. I repeat, the Middle Belt will never stay with the North. If push comes to shove, we are ready to negotiate with the South-South, Southeast, and the West. If these people, because I don't believe any country can survive having two legal systems side by side. It's not going to work. You know? So if they must have Sharia, then obviously they are telling us that we will not belong, because there is no how Sharia is going to treat everybody who is a non-Muslim on an equal footing. And that kind of confusion is not our fate in Jesus' name. So we will now decide, particularly in the Middle Belt, where we want to belong. We can negotiate and enter into a new association with the South, but it will be on the basis of honor and absolute equality, because we've done our sums. The Middle Belt is the largest part of this country. It's the richest in terms of solid minerals and the soil. What the soil can grow. I mean, Bokos, in one local government in Plateau State alone can supply the whole of West Africa with potatoes. Many of our solid minerals are totally untapped. We have almost 300,000 square kilometers of land, very lush land. Plateau and Mambila is like Europe. We can grow and export temperate fruits and all kinds of crops. We have the richest lands in Africa, some of the richest lands in Africa. So we will not join with the North, never in this life, never, 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 never. But we will consider a partnership with the South if there's a possibility in which we are treated as equal members of the partnership and on the basis of honor and absolute equality. That is my stand. But you see, let's give it a try. First, if it totally fails, don't forget that the Hausas, the Fulanis are only 5% of Nigeria. And all this wahala is because of these Fulanis. They constitute the caliphate. They make up 95%, 97% of all the emirs in the north. They control the land. They're a very tiny minority. They brought this extremist wing of Islam. They slaughtered all the Hausa kings. In fact, the Sarkin Zaria, who was a Hausa man, the Hausa people are just like you and me. They are also in bondage. They have also suffered. In fact, The reason why you have not heard civil war breaking out now in Nigeria, with everything that happened in the Eastern Security Network, they wanted a civil war. But the Hausa people told them, we will never join you. The Middle Belt also told them, we will never join you. You can never send us to go and kill Igbo. They are not our enemies. You cannot send us to go and kill Yorubas. They are not our enemies. You are our enemies. So we will never do your dirty job for you. That is why civil war has not broken. And also we in the Middle Belt who have made it clear to them that they are on their own. We joined them in fighting Biafra, believing that we are fighting a genuine civil war to reconcile brothers and to keep the country together. We've made it clear that we will never again do it. So if you notice that confidence, that bragado they used to have, it's gradually fading. And I believe that God doesn't make mistakes. It was Albert Einstein, the greatest scientist of the 20th century, who famously noted that God doesn't play dice with the universe, that God is not into a game of chance. He didn't make a mistake in cobbling together all this gaggle of tribes and nationalities into a federation called Nigeria. God was doing a thought experiment to find out whether we would muster the sagacity, the creativity, and the intelligence to create a prosperous, technological, advanced democracy on these shores. Unfortunately, we seem to be failing it. Let's give it a try one more time. And if it doesn't work, then of course, let us think the unthinkable. And then the fourth question was by Ms. Ife. We've prayed enough, we must take responsibility. I agree with you. I agree with you. But if you recall what I said, I think you prepared your question before even hearing what I said. I said we must take action. It was only at the tail end of what I said we should also pray. But we've prayed and we've prayed. Now is the time for action. But take even the actions prayerfully. The Lord said, pray continually without ceasing. You know, I fellowship online with, the monks of Mount Athos in Greece, which is probably the oldest Christian holy place, even older than the Vatican. The monks of Athos, they wake up at around 3 o'clock Greek time, which is around 5 o'clock Nigerian time. I tried to wake up at that time also and fellowship with them. They have this Jesus prayer that they pray continually. Jesus Christ, Son of God, who takes away the sins of the world, have mercy on me, for I'm a sinner. They pray that prayer almost 24 hours, regardless of what they're doing. They'll be mumbling that prayer. It's extremely powerful. So we have to pray continually. Even the battlefields will keep praying, whatever we are doing. So you can never say praying is enough. It's ungodly to say that. Prayer can never be enough. But act. Don't just pray. Act. Because action is part of demonstration of faith in what you're doing. So let's pray without ceasing, but let's also act with faith and act prayerfully. So this is what I would say for now. Thank you so very much indeed.
Doctor, we're running out of time.
Yes.
We have exactly 10 minutes to go. And I have over 12 people that want to ask questions. So we have to find a way to try and take those questions, or at least as many of them as possible,
sure,
so that we can let you go. And I also have to get on to something else.
Sure.
So we have Ume Ufot, Pastor Nero Fafora, Mrs. Grace Egbagbe, Antonia, those 4. Maybe we can add another 4. Ola Yinka Olubaki, David Okeshola, James Pam, Tokwe Longe. Let us stop there and do those questions in 15 seconds only. Don't greet anybody. Don't thank Doctor for being a wonderful person. We all know that already. Just go straight to the question so that we can take as many as possible. Just say, this is my question, and just say it. Or don't even say, this is my question. Just ask or make your comment in 15 seconds.
15 seconds.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ime, unmute yourself quickly.
Okay. Good evening, sir. My question is, I wanted you to just comment your take on the PIBs that just been passed. What's your comment and take on it? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Very good. PIB. Pastor Nero, unmute yourself, please.
Thank you, sir. My challenge is for us Christians in particular, because when you look at churches today, the truthfulness, righteousness, integrity of character appear to be very missing. And in that kind of scenario, will God answer our prayers? So what I want to say is that all of us on this platform who are Christians, in addition to praying, let us take action. Let us speak the truth to leadership at every level. That's what we need to do, that because there's a lot of rottenness, there's a lot of wrong priorities that churches are dissipating their resources upon. But we are about 200 people here, 250 people here. Let's go back to our leaders, challenge them, speak the truth to them at every level consistently. Then maybe they will hear us. I rest my case.
Thank you very much, Pastor Nero. That is a suggestion, and we will note it on this platform. My sister Grace.
Okay. Good afternoon. The speaker, he said something that resonated with me, and that was, let there be a constitutional restructuring of the country. Now, how? May I ask, how do you restructure a country where the people who are charged with making laws or upholding laws, the judiciary and the assembly, are not doing anything? How do you get them to do something? And I'm very happy about your suggestion, because I have always said prayer is good, and I pray every day for Nigeria. But it gets to a point where sometimes you just give up. I mean, we're human. We know that God is almighty, but sometimes you give up, and you have to be a true Christian, very close to God, to be able to say, is there going to be any hope? And if I tell you that I have lost hope, please believe me that I am not the only one who has lost hope. When our kids woke up and did what we should have done, it was the adults, the parents, that stopped them. And every time I think about that incident where people were killed, I cry, because, okay, let me tell you, our problem is selfishness. I get emotional when I talk about Nigeria, and I almost didn't want to even join. But because Pastor Itwa is somebody that I love and respect, I said, let me just hear what this is all about. And I'm glad that I did, because I don't think I could have missed this for anything in the world. How do we look? If you're ready, if you want a change, you have to be ready to die. It's as simple as that. There is no change that is peaceful anywhere in the world. History has also said that. I'm here in the US, where everybody knows about the Floyd's case. Our problem is that nobody is really that committed to die for Nigeria. That's one. But your suggestion, which is a peaceful one, and I'm very happy about that, I'm hoping that we will all take it and run with it. Maybe you should talk to CAN and have them make a declaration, because it has to come from a body that will make all Christians say, oh, our leaders are saying we should do this. And let's sit home. And while we are sitting at home for 1 week, we'll be praying as well. I think something will happen. And thank you for that suggestion.
Thank you.
Thank you, my dear. Thank you very much for coming in. Your question is noted, and so on and so forth. In the process, somebody asked, how do we break denominational barriers? Because, Doctor, one of the challenges of the church is disunity and empire building across the entire place. Antonia, very quickly unmute yourself. Please take only 2 seconds.
So what I want to say is also about the church, that the church needs to unite. our church leaders need to come together. I remember sometime in July 8th, God said the church leaders should come together, that he wanted to talk to them. Well, how many people showed up at that program? So these people, the enemies we're fighting with, they know that we're not united. We're not united. And that's why they're using divide and rule, because they know that some of our leaders, they have already eaten dodo and they cannot speak ododo. They can't speak the truth anymore. And so they come in between, and they offer them money, offer them power, and before you know it, they are dancing to their tune. So it is very important for the church to unite. And another thing, I was on another platform, and somebody from the Middle Belt.
Taking somebody else's time.
Sorry. Somebody from the Middle Belt was saying that the church in the Middle Belt, they were telling their congregation that they should not defend themselves. That as Christians, they should not defend themselves. So I think that needs to be corrected, because once they know that we can defend ourselves, I think these enemies will run away. Thank you.
Thank you. That's what Doctor said, that the enemy, we must defend ourselves. I think General Danjuma also said so last year or so. Next week, we're going to be having Omoyele Sowore on the platform to hear what he has to say. So please keep that date relatively free to join us here. And I'm going to be asking Dr. Obadiah to please come back in the nearest future so that we can conclude on our discuss, since there's so many questions all over the place. So let me take on 3 more people very quickly. James Palm, please unmute yourself and ask your question. James Palm, and thereafter we'll look at Oluyinka Olubaki. James Palm, please.
Yes, thank you very much. I would like Dr. Obadiah Mailafia, my indisputable Middle Belt leader, to please send 2 pieces of advice. One, to my state governor, the Plateau State Governor, Governor Simon Lalong, in the midst of this crisis we're facing in Plateau. And the second message, I expect it to be an encouragement to Governor Autumn of Benue State, whom I have just adopted as my governor. Thank you. 2 pieces of advice, please, to the 2 prominent Middle Belt governors. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Palm. God bless you.
Thank you.
I reckon you must be related to Ibrahim and
don't forget me.
Yusuf.
Yes.
Yes.
You, Dr. Barrister Yusuf Palm's father was my uncle, so we are cousins.
Yeah, cousins. Okay, I thought so.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Tokwe Longe, please.
Yes, Pastor, good evening, sir. Can you hear me?
Yeah, please, just go ahead.
Yes. I actually didn't know about this webinar. Somebody just
ask your question.
Yes, my question, sir, what I want to say is this, sir. I do not think, I live in the North. I don't think we can live with these people. Well, I appreciate his effort, but I do not think we can. I think we need to break away from these people. They are taking us back. I live in the North as I talk to you, and I have been a victim of kidnap. I have been their victim. I have been shot, and I have the pictures. I don't think we can live with. We have a different mindset in every area of life. We cannot live together. We can try, we can pray, but we can't be with them. We are 2 different people in all ramifications, and I'm going to stop there. We cannot live with these people. An experiment to continue to stay with them will not work. They have a mindset, and their mindset, really the issue of the Fulanis, they want to conquer and annex your lands and take your lives. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Your point is noted, and Dr. Mailafia will speak to it. David Okeshola, very quickly, 1 second, please.
Pastor, what about?
David, you are not ready. Olayinka.
Yes, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. My question is just what our honorable just spoke about. Bible said in Proverbs chapter 20. So for
No. Just ask your question, David.
Yes,
don't waste time.
Yes, the question is just from what our speaker said, praying without planning is like playing without knowing. And I believe that as Christians, we need to rise up and speak the truth and take necessary action. And from I'm really encouraged from what I'm hearing today, that one can speak boldly. And the problem also rises from us as Christian church leaders, because the different ball game when you say you are a leader or you are in authority, there are two different ball games. So no leader live a normal scheduled life. He has to be an extra life. And I believe
Thank you very much, David. Your questions are noted. We'll talk to the leaders. Last question for tonight will come from Olayinka Olubaki. We have to close. I'm sorry. Yinka, ask your questions and Dr. Mailafia will reply. We'll take. Okay. Everybody else can send in their question as a chat.
Can I go ahead?
Yeah, Yinka, please go ahead very quickly.
Thank you so much. I just feel that Christians must practice Christianity. Let's practice what we study in the Bible. And I have two questions. My first question is that if we are expecting to take over, are we preparing minds who will take over these leadership positions as senators, as in the House of Assembly, as governors? Who are these people that were people? Because we can't continue to repeat the same thing. Number two is that I know that people who represent us don't represent our interest, right? So we need constitutional education that will help us to be able to unseat anyone that we don't want there. When they get there and they are not doing what they're supposed to do, how do we constitutionally educate our people to know how to constitutionally unseat a senator, unseat a governor? How do we do that? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Olayinka Olubaki. Dr. Obadiah Mailafia, please, we want to thank you very, very much for coming to this session today. I'd like to say and take liberty and say that we will please invite you back in the nearest future so that we can dig deeper into some of these things and probably give a bit more time on the platform. We have a set of 8 questions, which I'm going to ask you to please respond to, and then you can give your closing remarks, and that will be that for today. Just to remind everybody, same time next week, Comrade Omoyele Shore will be here, and he'll be talking about the real alternative. What is the real alternative? Adeni, please mute your microphone. Olayinka, mute your microphone also. And Uche, please mute your microphone. And Mr. K, Olubaki, please mute your microphone, please. All right, Doctor, please respond. Thank you very, very much for coming again. We really had a very, very outstanding session today. And I will call you and arrange for us to meet. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Senior Pastor, sir. Like I said, the honor has been mine. Thank you so very much for inviting me. And thank you to all the brethren who have raised very important questions. The first one is Niran, and the second is Fafawora. Will God answer our prayers with the way the church is? We have criticized our church, we criticize ourselves, because the church is not something out there. The church is you, and the church is me. We are the church. So if we are criticizing the church, we are criticizing ourselves. But also, let's not over-exaggerate. There are men and women of God in Nigeria. Believe me, that is why Nigeria has not become a scatter completely, because of the remnants. There's an echo somewhere. Somebody has not muted themselves. So let's not over-exaggerate. There are still men and women of God in this country. That is why Nigeria has probably not been destroyed completely, because of the remnants. So But I agree with you. Let's speak truth to ourselves. Let's speak truth to our leaders. And let's continue to encourage them. But please, let's not do it with malice. And let's not do it with bitterness. That is not the godly way. The godly way is to correct people with love, to speak with love, and to speak with humility. I think that is the godly way to do it. And Anyanwu, why do I think of PIB? The PIB stands for the Petroleum Industry Bill. The spirit underlying it is okay. But I've written about it already in some of my columns, and I said this idea of 30% profit spent in areas for exploration, I think it is very dodgy, it is very dangerous, and it is very wrong. You cannot spend 30% just for exploration. You know, somebody can just pocket the money and say he has gone to explore in Borno, he has gone to explore in Katsina, and he has not done any exploration. And it can't be right. I oppose that idea. And the mere 3% or so for host communities, I think it is too low. I think it is far, far too low. It's a more significant amount. I would say up to 7% should go to the host states. But having said that, let me make it very clear that NDDC, for example, is a shameful, corrupt, and fraudulent organization. I'm told that as I'm sitting here now in my obscure corner, if I know somebody there who can just raise an invoice about a fictitious contract that I've done for them, and they will pay me hundreds of millions. So if you can't manage this money from the NDDC fund, how can you manage so much more? Some of the poorest youths have to be found precisely in the petroleum states. Very poor, no job, nothing. And they're getting such humongous amounts of money. How can you justify this? How on earth can you justify this? So much as I oppose this 30% for exploration and the small amount given to the host states, if NDDC is anything to go by, then the host authorities must examine themselves. Let's speak truth to ourselves. Most of the money for NDDC is being wasted, is being stolen. In fact, sometimes I feel hand over the money to African Development Bank to they will be in the African Development Bank, and let them come and then manage it, build infrastructures, and so on. Take the money away from these people. If you can't manage it, you are stealing everything. Why on earth should we trust you? We could never trust such creatures, not at all. So it is very disgraceful and very shameful. I get angry when I speak about this because the managing director, was the chairman, when he was called for questioning, a whole professor of medicine, he collapsed and claimed to be fainting. And you are teaching medical students who will operate on other people, and you cannot take responsibility. What kind of human beings are these? Anyway, how do you, Grace Egbagbe spoke about how do you restructure? When I agreed, in fact, without you even finishing your sentence, I understood precisely what you mean. That most of the majority, many of the legislators come from the north because they gerrymandered the constituencies to give themselves more local governments and more the state. And Lagos with Kano have about the same population, but Kano has double the members of the National Assembly and the National Assembly compared to Lagos. So obviously they have profited from the system and they will not be in a position where you will expect them to dismantle a structure that has served their interest so much? Well, my solution is that there are constitutional moments in the history of nations that require putting aside all the existing institutions and creating a new National Assembly in which even the duly elected representative legislators will also be represented there. But let there be a fresh constituent assembly that will deliberate and discuss the idea of a new constitution frankly, openly, and sincerely, in the interest of our country and in the interest of posterity. That one is doable. It will need a referendum. It will need a new constituent assembly. Some of the existing members could be represented there. They can, out of them, you can choose maybe 10 out of 120 constituent assembly to represent, to be members of it. But let it be done by a constituent assembly of all the nationalities, representing all the nationalities of our country equally. How do we pray? Antonia, that the church needs to unite, and then we need to defend ourselves. I agree with you that Christian unity is paramount. And it was Queen Elizabeth I who said, whether Catholic, whether Protestant, there is only one Lord, and he's Jesus Christ. If we believe that, then that should be the foundation of Christian unity. And my brother James Palm, lovely to see you, that I should send a message. My message to Governor Lalong is, please, let my people go. You have joined our enemies. You have joined the enemies of our people. Please, let our people go. Let our people go. That is all I can say to you. And as for His Excellency Governor Otom, please keep up the great work. God has vindicated you, and God will continue to protect you. They hate you so much, and they have very evil plans against you. I will continue to pray for you, that the Lord will be with you, and the Lord will sustain you and sustain your families. Fear not, says the Lord, for I am with thee, and I shall always be with thee, wheresoever thou goest. I shall always be with thee. Tokwe Longe, well, I'm sorry about the experience you had. I don't know which state you are living in, but it must be one of the far north. If you are living in the far north, it's not easy at all. My cousin, my nephew actually just left KB last week. He went for NYC. He was almost developing mental problems. He said that place is not worth living. No human being should be living in that place. Number one, there is no church in the whole town. There's no church at all in the whole town. And the church is not allowed in that town. So he managed to get himself back for reposting. He came back to Abuja, so we don't know where they will post him this time. Well, you are entitled to your opinion. I cannot say I challenge your opinion. Sometimes I feel that way, to be honest with you. I go there, I see the way I see things, and I said, my God, how did you join us with this kind of people? Are we ever going to be able to live with them? And the other aspect too is that from a pure point of constitutional law, the idea of ground norm, the pure theory of law, for those who have studied jurisprudence, the ground norm is the fundamental underlying principle of constitutional government in any country. And of course, our ground norm is based on the common law system. So if we have two ground norms, it's like a snake with two heads. Will you run this way, will you run that way? That snake will always be wobbling around in one place. So that is the way it is. So I don't know how we're going to be able to do that. But, I believe that education matters. The caliphate system has denied them of education, has made it difficult for them to have that basic understanding that will lead to performance of basic civic duties of citizenship. They only know how to fall down and say ranka dede with begging bowl for the crumbs to fall down. They have all this Almajiri system. And that is what is taking the North backwards. And today it is the poorest region. It's one of the poorest regions on earth. So it's a problem of education. It's a problem of socialization. It's a problem of education and understanding and enlightenment. So if that is done, you might find that some of them are also human, you know, and they can also be very, very nice people. Believe it. David Okeshola, I agree with you, so I wouldn't say anything because I agree with what you said. Thank you. Yinka Olubakin, are we preparing leaders? Who are those leaders that we would mentor? Mentoring is a big problem in the church. It's a big problem generally in Africa, but particularly in the church. We don't really have a good mentoring system. And we need to take not only more interest in politics, we must understand that, you know, as a famous philosopher said, that the only thing required for evil to prevail is for good people to sit back and do nothing. So we shy away from discussing politics in the church. We must educate our youth. It is part of civic responsibility to be able to educate youth to know not only their rights, but also to understand and appreciate their duties as citizens in a free and democratic society. So we need all that kind of political education in the church. In fact, for our brethren, the Muslims, there's no different. The mosque is the most political platform ever. That is where they discuss and plan everything. If they're going to slaughter people, they plan it in the mosque. If they're going to vote for whoever, they plan it in the mosque. It is we who have taken this idea of separation of faith and state too far. We've taken it too far. And, you know, I have sometimes feel inspired to go about several churches talking to them about Christian political thought. You know, there are great, you know, like Abraham Kuyper, who was a great Christian, a theologian and a political philosopher. He became Prime Minister of Holland in the late 19th century, Abraham Kuyper. There were people like Herman Dewey Veard, who was his apostle, his student, you know, who wrote copiously on Christian social thought and Christian political philosophy. We need these ideas. We need to be better educated and better informed because, as Plato said, you know, the price that good people pay for not participating in politics is that they will always be ruled by their inferiors. You don't want to be ruled by your inferiors, so you must participate in politics. You must take interest in politics, and our leaders and elders must learn to mentor young people. A great medieval Jewish sage by the name of Rabbi Hillel said that great leaders make great followers, but the greatest leaders make leaders of others. So let me stop here. And once again, I really appreciate all of you, and I thank our senior pastor, the amiable and very inspiring senior pastor, Itua Igodalo, and I thank all of you, brethren, for giving me your time and your attention. The French philosopher Simone Weil said famously that the highest form of compliment is attention. So thank you for your compliment. Thank you for your attention. The Lord bless you mightily. Shalom. Thank you.
Shalom, sir. Thank you very, very much for your time. Thank you for being with us. God will bless you. I will call you, or Olu will call you to fix yet another appointment to be on the platform, and then an opportunity for you and I to please sit down together. I want to thank everyone who's been on the platform for being there. God bless you all. Thank you all very, very much. And hopefully see you 5 o'clock next week with Yele Shore. God bless you. Thank you.
God bless you. Pastor, thank you.
Hello, hello, Pastor Iswa.
God bless you all.
Uncle.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. God bless you.
I appreciate. Thank
Pastor
you.
Itwa.
Yes, sir.
We are requesting for Governor Autumn to come and speak.
Okay, Governor Autumn, if you know how I can reach him, let me know.
I will let you know.
Please let me know how I can reach him. I'll be happy to have him on the platform.
Yes, he should be given a chance to come and speak.
Sure.
I can try to see if I can organize.
Can also connect to
I have a link to put.
Okay, all right. Tony, please help us get that link.
All right.
If there's any way I say the record, appreciate.
Have a nice
It's
day.
been a
God bless
glorious
you.
one. Thank you. Have a nice day.
No, I'm going to church.